The rain poured relentlessly, as if the heavens themselves were mourning Jacob's fate. His crops had failed, the bank was ready to take his farm, and his family's legacy teetered on the edge of ruin. Alone in his dimly lit home, Jacob wrestled with despair. Then came the knock. A frantic, desperate knock that shattered the silence. When Jacob opened the door, a stranger stood there, soaked, trembling and pleading for help. Jacob had nothing to give, not even hope for himself. Yet, he let the man in. What Jacob didn't know was that this one act of kindness would ignite a chain of events so mysterious, so life-altering, that it would make him question everything he thought he knew about life, kindness, and destiny. Why had the stranger come? And how could someone with so little give so much? Stay with me, because this story will take you on a journey where kindness meets fate in the most unexpected way. If you're enjoying this story and want to see more amazing content like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, Mr. Zainarama Stories. Your support helps me create more engaging stories for you. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Jacob Carter was a man of the land, his hands rough from years of tilling soil and planting seeds. But no matter how hard he worked, fate seemed to work harder against him. The once fertile fields of his family's farm had turned barren, battered by months of relentless drought, followed by unexpected floods. His livestock dwindled, his debts piled high, and the bank's foreclosure notice loomed over his head like a death sentence. Jacob had tried everything, borrowing from neighbors, working odd jobs, and even selling the few heirlooms passed down through generations. But the numbers never added up, and the weight of his failure pressed heavy on his shoulders. That evening, as the rain poured outside, Jacob sat in his dimly lit farmhouse, staring at a table empty of food and hope. The candlelight flickered weakly, much like his will to keep fighting. Maybe it's time to let go, he whispered to himself. But then came the knock. It was sharp, urgent, and completely unexpected. For a moment, Jacob thought he had imagined it. Who would be out on a night like this? But the knock came again, louder this time. Jacob hesitated before opening the door, and when he did, he found a man standing there, drenched from head to toe. His clothes clung to his thin frame, and his face was pale, almost ghostly. The man's eyes darted around nervously, but his voice was steady. "Please, I need help," the man said, his words almost drowned by the rain. Jacob's first instinct was caution. He had heard stories of desperate men turning to crime, especially in hard times like these. But as he looked closer, he saw something in the man's eyes. Not malice, but fear and exhaustion. "Come in," Jacob said finally, stepping aside. The man collapsed onto the old wooden chair by the fire, his trembling hands reaching out to absorb the little warmth it offered. Jacob handed him a towel and some dry clothes, simple ones that had seen better days. "You're lucky you found this place," Jacob said, pouring the man a cup of hot tea, the last of his provisions. "What's your name?" "Elias," the man replied, his voice low. He hesitated, then added, "I got lost on the road. My car broke down miles back." Jacob nodded, though something about Elias's story didn't quite sit right. But he didn't press. The man needed help, and that was enough for now. As the storm continued outside, Elias warmed up and began to relax, though his eyes still carried a flicker of unease. Jacob offered him the last of his bread and cheese, brushing off the gnawing guilt of giving away what little he had left. "You live alone here?" Elias asked, glancing around the humble farmhouse. Jacob sighed. "Used to be my family's land, passed down for generations, but now—" He trailed off, the weight of his struggles evident. "The bank's taking it soon. Can't keep up with the payments." Elias listened intently, his brows furrowing. "I'm sorry to hear that. You don't deserve this," Jacob chuckled bitterly. "Life's not about what you deserve, friend. It's about what you can survive." They talked late into the night, and though Jacob didn't realize it, Sharing his burdens with a stranger lightened the invisible load on his heart. When morning came, the storm had passed, leaving behind clear skies and muddy roads. Elias stood at the door, ready to leave. "I don't know how to thank you," Elias said, shaking Jacob's hand firmly. "Not many people would open their doors to a stranger." "You don't have to thank me," Jacob replied, though deep down he wondered if he'd made a mistake. He had nothing to give, yet he had given everything. Before stepping out, Elias paused. "Jacob, I won't forget this. You've done more for me than you realize." And with that, he was gone, leaving Jacob with nothing but the memory of his visit and the gnawing curiosity about who Elias truly was. Weeks passed, and Jacob's situation grew worse. He avoided the banker's calls, knowing the farm would soon be taken. One evening, as he was locking up the barn, he noticed an envelope tucked into the doorframe. Inside was a letter written in neat handwriting. "To the kind soul who gave without asking, your generosity will not be forgotten. Keep going." With the letter was a check, a substantial amount, enough to cover the overdue payments on the farm. Jacob was stunned. Who could have sent it? He thought of Elias, but it seemed impossible. How could a man who had arrived on foot, soaking wet and lost, suddenly afford to send such a gift? Jacob used the money to stabilize the farm, paying off his debts and planting new crops. Hope returned, though the mystery of the envelope lingered. Years passed, and Jacob rebuilt his life. The farm thrived, and he became known in the community as a man of kindness and resilience. But he never forgot that stormy night, or the stranger who had come knocking. One day, as he sat on his porch, an expensive car pulled up the dusty driveway. Out stepped a man in a sharp suit, Elias. Jacob's jaw dropped. "Elias?" The man smiled warmly. "I told you I wouldn't forget." Elias explained that he had been a struggling entrepreneur. As Elias stepped closer, his voice filled with emotion. "Jacob, that night I had nothing left. I was running from my own failures, convinced the world had given up on me. But you gave me hope when I had none. You didn't just save me from the storm, you saved me from myself." Jacob was speechless, still trying to reconcile the desperate man he had met years ago with the confident, successful man standing before him now. "Elias, I only did what anyone should do," he finally said. "But not everyone would," Elias replied firmly. "Your kindness set off a chain of events I could never have imagined. It inspired me to keep going, to fight for my dreams. And now, it's time for me to return the favor." Elias gestured to his car, and a team of people stepped out, carrying boxes and papers. "I'm here to ensure your farm is secure, permanently. I've bought the land from the bank and transferred ownership back to you, free and clear. You'll never have to worry about losing it again." Jacob's eyes widened. "You bought my farm?" Elias nodded. "And that's not all. I've set up an endowment to support local farmers like you, people who work hard but need a little help. Your story reminded me that even the smallest acts of kindness can make the biggest difference. Now, I want to help others the way you helped me." Tears welled up in Jacob's eyes. For years, he had wondered if his struggles had been in vain, if his small acts of goodness in a harsh world even mattered. And now, standing before him was proof that they did. As the years went by, Jacob's farm became a beacon of hope in the community. Farmers who once struggled found support through Elias's foundation, and Jacob became a mentor, sharing his story of perseverance and kindness. One evening, as Jacob sat with his grandchildren on the same porch where he had once met Elias, he shared the story of that stormy night. The children listened wide-eyed, hanging on to every word. "So, Grandpa," one of them asked, "what's the lesson in your story?" Jacob smiled, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. "The lesson, my dear, is that kindness is never wasted. You may not see its impact right away, but every good deed you do plants a seed. Sometimes that seed grows into something bigger than you could ever imagine. Life has a way of bringing kindness back to you, often when you need it most." As the sun set over the thriving fields, Jacob felt a deep sense of peace. The farm was more than just land. It was a testament to the power of compassion, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between kindness and fate. And so Jacob's story reminds us of a truth we often overlook. No act of kindness, no matter how small, ever goes unnoticed. Whether it changes one life or 1,000, the ripples it creates will always find their way back to you. What seeds of kindness will you plant today? Because one day, those seeds might just come full circle,